If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt, squeak, and squawk with the animals, and they could talk with me. Jazz hands. Well, if you're my age, you grew up with Dr. Doolittle. He was more dignified in the earlier versions of him, and he was portrayed by Eddie Murphy later on in a more silly version of Dr. Doolittle. But I'm here today to talk about talking to animals. What if we could talk to animals? Do we talk to animals? Have you been caught talking to your animals? Now, everyone who trains animals gives verbal commands. So I suppose that's actually talking to animals. But, my grandma used to talk, the one that's deceased, used to talk to herself, and she would use talking to the dog as an excuse. And it would just be like she was having a conversation with this dog about everyday life. And of course, he's chewing on a chew toy. He ain't even paying no attention. He's like doing dog stuff. He's licking his paw. She's just rambling, but she'd just talk on and on and on. And you'd catch her, be like, "Grandma, are you talking to yourself?" She goes, "No, I'm talking to Junior. I'm talking to the dog." So she would use him as a sounding board, as it were. When my son was little, and he was first starting to learn to speak as a little baby, I started writing down the words that he knew, that he could speak. And I guess when he got, I don't know, we got about 50 or 60 words that he could speak. I'm just like, okay, this is kind of getting silly now. The kid can talk. He knows 50, 60 words. And if you've ever seen my video about Einstein the Wonder Dog, you'll know that I had a Nova Scotia duck-tolling retriever who was so smart he was human-like. And so I had him at the same time as I had my little son, who's now the big old Bubba boy you might have seen in some of my videos. But when he was little, I had the dog at the same time. And the dog really knew a lot of words. Like, he knew a lot of commands. And I'm like, I wonder if my duck-tolling retriever didn't know he was a duck-tolling retriever, thought he was a mutt, found out later. But, I wonder if Einstein knows as many words as my toddler does. And so I started counting up all of the commands that Einstein knew. And that dog knew around 125 commands. So you'd almost... the dog seemed like he almost understood everything you said. I mean, if a dog knows that many commands, you'd think it'd be pretty easy for him to put together the connecting words and kind of learn the language, the human language. So we can speak to animals using our language, and they kind of learn to speak our language, and that's what dog training, animal training is all about. Is these commands or gestures which communicate our wishes to the animals. And a lot of people treat their animals these days just like humans. They have, my daughter has, a lot of people have seen Mr. BB, my bodyguard, my intimidating bodyguard, my little Yorkie Terrier. I have joint custody with my daughter, and she keeps him. Actually, I pretty much let her have him back. It's just, and that's another video. But yeah, she dresses him up in little clothes, and he has his own little bed, and they're just like people, like members of the family. But can we really talk to animals, and more importantly, can they speak to us? This is kind of part of the pre-flood mythology. If you want to know more about some of that, look at some of my videos on giants and Nephilim, and on the big giant ancient trees and things like that. But I believe that before the flood, before everything changed, that human beings could speak openly with the animals. Now, in the Garden of Eden, it just talks about how the serpent just strikes up a conversation with Eve. Now, many Christians and people now, we think that's the devil, and it wasn't really a snake. It was more like a reptilian demonic spirit. But it seems like, to me, that she was not shocked at all that this animal was just talking to her. Well, it's no big deal. They talk to me all the time. And there is mythology, and there are little breadcrumbs that make you think that once upon a time we had open communication with animals. Now, I'll admit to talking to animals, and not just in human language, but in their languages. One of the reasons I made this video is I stepped out of my camper van this morning, and there was a big gray squirrel climbing up a tree. We kind of feed them around here, down by the river, and they really like bird seed and stuff like that, and corn. So we feed them just to have something to look at. It's what you do when you don't have cable. Watch animal TV. But I stepped out this morning, and there was this big squirrel, and I kind of surprised him, and he acted like he was going to run off. He kind of run off, and then he stopped for a second, turned and looked at me, because I started talking to him in squirrel talk. And this is pretty easy to do. I taught my kids how to do this. Just make the okay sound, but pinch it together tighter so it's like that, so almost no air goes through. And then kind of cup your hands like this, put this part of it up to your mouth like this, and make a kissy sound, but more open instead of more like a kind of sound. So it sounds like this. That's squirrel talk. That's like, hey man, what's up? What are you doing over here? Hey, stop and talk to me. And they'll stop and turn, and they'll look at you, and they'll go around the tree, and they'll look at you like you're talking squirrel talk. What are you saying? And it gets their attention. Now, I love animals, but I'm also a hunter. I won't get into all that, but when I want a deer to stop and turn and look at me, if they're getting away, they're kind of like they figure something ain't right and they're leaving, and I want them to stop and turn and look at me one more time, I'll go, ah. That's deer talk for, hey buddy, hey you, ah. They'll stop, turn, and I go, huh? You talking to me? You talking to me? If you have a dog, try this with them the next time that you're having a little time with the dog. Instead of talking to him in the squeaky, cutesy voice that you normally talk to your dog in, hey, I'm guilty. I'm like, oh, little baby, this little Mr. Baby, oh, he's a little cute boy. I'm as bad as anybody, right? But try talking to him in dog talk. Listen carefully, and if you can't hear this well, you might want to put on headphones. But this is dog talk. And this will get a reaction out of any dog you encounter. This will get just try this. You'll love this if you like dogs. It goes like this. You ready? If you do that, and especially if you paw at the ground, a little bit, go. That dog will get so excited, he'll start making the same noise, he'll start jumping around, he'll just love you. He'll just be like, I'm so happy, because you're saying, hey buddy, what's up, I really like you, hey, how's it going, dog, what's up, my bud? In dog language. And they get all excited, because that's what dogs do when they see each other. So, can we speak to animals? Sure, it happens all the time. We've got a documented case of was it a gorilla or a chimpanzee that learned to speak English, American Sign Language, I think Western Sign Language, whatever the sign language, and learned to speak the sign language and have conversations with people that make sense. So, did we once upon a time have the power to openly speak with animals? Before the Tower of Babel, it is said that we all spoke one language, and that all of these various language happened afterwards. Did we all understand the animals before the Tower of Babel, or was it the flood that changed everything, or was it when we got kicked out of the garden? Is that when we stopped being able to understand them and they stopped being able to understand us? I think the Native American ape, the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, might be the answer to a lot of these issues, and I think that I have reason to believe that Bigfoots, if you believe in them, have learned to speak English, and then some people have learned to speak Bigfoot. So do animals have languages? Well, if you've ever gotten close to a mama squirrel's nest, you might have heard this little bit. It kind of goes like this. In squirrel talk. And that's a mama squirrel saying, get away from my nest, my baby's around here, I'm trying to keep my baby safe, and you're around there, and I'll have to fight you. Now, no, you just go on and mind your own business and leave us alone. If you spend as much time in the woods as I have, if you unplug and turn down the TV, pull out the earplugs, pay attention to nature, maybe you can talk to the animals too. I think we've all got a little bit of Dr. Doolittle in us. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Can we talk to animals? Do animals talk to us? I'll say one thing. Einstein the Wonder Dog my duck toller, he used to do this thing where when he was bored and wanted to play, he would come and put a toy up on my lap, and he would just lay it up there, and he would look at me. Throw the toy. Pick up the toy. I want to play with the toy. It's time to play with the toy. And if I didn't do anything, he would throw his chin down on my lap and go, can we talk to the animals? Can they talk to us? I think they're smarter than we think, and I think they understand more than they let on. Tell me what you think in the comments section.